What is up, guys? Rick Kackis here. Thank you so much for stopping by, and today I set an alarm. I woke up bright and early, pounded that advanced GG so I could stay awake, and then I joined a fire team with my bud True Vanguard. I was ready to game, play some Trials of Osiris. But then, as I go to Sin 14 to pick up the bounties, I notice, wait a second, I'm clicking on them and it's not letting me pick them up. I check Twitter and I see this gem from the official Bungie help. Due to a recently discovered issue, Trials of Osiris has been disabled for this week. We are currently investigating to determine when it will return. Okay, so what the heck is going on here? Well, apparently the issue is that Behemoth Titans figured out a glitch or something to turn them invisible. So a bunch of invisible Behemoth Titans were going to be running around in Trials, I guess, so Bungie panicked and disabled it. I didn't even know this was a thing. I don't really get into the whole, glitches and exploits thing for the most part, so I feel like most people's Trials runs would have gone totally normally because this wasn't a super well-known exploit. But of course, if you are that team who runs up against a bunch of invisible Titans and you can't do anything about it, that is extremely frustrating and extremely unfair. So you can't hate Bungie for making this decision. It was probably the right decision to make at the time. However, some leniency does go away when you also think about the fact that this isn't the first time Trials has been delayed. Trials was actually supposed to launch before the raid. And here's the tweet from November 12th. Due to a recently discovered issue, Trials of Osiris will not be available until the weekend of November 27th, 2020. Now, this definitely mattered, especially because at the time, this was actually going to come out before the raid. So by taking Trials away, they took out a whole pinnacle reward actually, so that definitely could have screwed over certain people's leveling. They were potentially relying on that Trials pinnacle to help them get raid ready. It turned out in the grand scheme of things, it was, pretty easy to get to the contest mode cap, but still, this did impact people. And that time, yet again, a stasis subclass went a little crazy. It was the Warlock stasis subclass that could last indefinitely. Once you popped it, there was a combo of buttons you could mash essentially at the end of your super, and you would just stay in your super, and it would never end. Now, of course, again, when you have something like that, you can't blame Bungie for making the decision to disable Trials, because that is absolutely going to ruin people's games if they encounter that. But we've had 2 canceled Trials now, and I think at this point, we really need to start to ask the question, Bungie, why can't you disable stasis subclasses in Trials rather than the entire Trials activity? Because, there is one group of subclasses that are giving us problems over and over and over again, and it ain't the ARC subclasses, if you know what I'm saying. So, at some point, Bungie has to realign their strategy with disabling the things that are actually causing all the problems, rather than disabling the activity that we're trying to avoid the problems in. Because as a whole, even though I am actually really enjoying Beyond Light, I think it's a fantastic expansion. I am enjoying using Stasis. I think there's quite a lot of content to be had. The exotics are pretty much all fantastic. It overwhelmingly is good. But with that being said, you can't deny that this is a very buggy expansion. It's not just Trials getting disabled. There was another glitch where, again, the Warlock Stasis Super was instantly melting bosses and ruining Gambit matches. You have entire strikes being disabled because they don't work properly. From a personal experience, I'm getting Anteater coded like every 12 seconds. Maybe that's my internet, but I've talked to other people who, like myself, were not getting this Anteater error until Beyond Light launches, and now the error codes have just accumulated to ridiculous proportions. So there is absolutely some quality assurance issues gone wrong with Beyond Light. And the fact that this has caused not 1 but 2 Trials cancellations is a really big deal. Firstly, you have people who love the PvP within this game. Trials is their raid. They were looking forward to this 2 different weekends. They made plans 2 different weekends and they got screwed 2 different weekends. In fact, it could be worse than this because Bungie doesn't even say in their tweet, oh, we're back next week. They say, we're gonna have to determine when the heck we can be back with Trials. And this matters more than I think people realize because of what is being introduced only this season with Trials, and that is Adept weapons. This is just supposed to come out within Beyond Light, and they're special weapons that have a special mod slot that can be equipped with Adept mods. So they're completely unique mods that can only go on Adept weapons. Also, when you masterwork one of these Adept weapons, they get a +3 stat boost, I believe, to all the different stats. So you know, if you get, for example, the auto rifle with a stability masterwork, you masterwork it all the way to max, it gets that +10 to stability, but then it'll get +3 to handling, to range, all of that stuff. So these are going to be like better than normal, statistically better than normal Trials weapons that also have access to these mods that can do some special things. For me, I'm mainly a PvE guy, but there is an Adept mod called Adept Mag, and what it does is add +40 to your magazine size, and then it like reduces handling by -20 or something irrelevant, but that's very important because backup mag only adds +30. So an extra +10 could, with certain weapons, get you a whole extra round in the magazine. And when you're dealing with weapons like the sniper rifle that can get Vorpal weapon, that can matter quite a bit. So again, there are some very exciting combinations when it comes to these Adept weapons. They were supposed to make their debut and they've been delayed 2 weeks in a row. Now, why does that matter so much? Well, there's 2 big reasons. Firstly, they're on a very limited rotation schedule. So this weekend, or what was supposed to be this weekend, and whenever the heck Trials is actually going to come out, there's only going to be one guys, Adept weapon that's dropping. So maybe it's the sniper, maybe it's the auto rifle, but it's gonna be just one thing, and then you can farm that weekend over and over and over again for that specific weapon. And the same things are going to be for mods. They're only going to drop on certain weekends, and there's only going to be one mod apparently dropping on those weekends. Now, unless Bungie changes that formula, what that means is we're already super delayed with when Trials was supposed to happen. Are we even gonna get a full rotation in? And I think Bungie probably planned for this to have like, let's say 2 different weekends for each one of the guns, but now we're so far behind. Let's say next weekend, it's the shotgun, and then they don't have time to do another shotgun rotation. So there's literally only 1 weekend to get the shotgun, and that's it. If you miss that weekend, you're not gonna get the Adept shotgun. You're screwed. So delaying it 2 weeks could really screw people over in acquiring this loot if it's on such a limited rotation. That's one reason. The other reason is that there's some questions around the infusion cap of the Trials weapons, because even though the armor seems to be getting updated every season and having new infusion caps, the weapons, at least last season, were still dropping as if they were from Season of the Worthy. So will that happen again? Well, if it does, that is definitely gonna matter. You've shaved 2 weeks off of when you can actually utilize these weapons. Now, the Adept versions, at least in the database, seem to appear like they're gonna be dropping from this season, Season 12, so at least that matters, but this whole sunsetting debate is gonna rear its ugly head because basically you're cutting off half of an entire season almost for when you can utilize these Adept weapons potentially. So I think with these delays, and God forbid if there's another delay, Bungie needs to reassess how they're doing Adept weapons. They need to absolutely update them to drop at this season. That should frankly happen regardless. And they also need to perhaps consider having 2 or maybe 3 Adept weapons dropping every single week. They're going to be harder to farm for, but I feel like that's potentially the only solution to actually get people's hands on them. But regardless, this ain't good. Hopefully Bungie can get a handle on what's going on. Certainly this is an issue because stasis is such a big part of the game. It's impacting everything. It's such a new feature. But maybe, again, Bungie, look at how to disable the stasis subclasses for activities rather than making trials and whatever other future activity suffer again and again and again because you constantly have to disable it because of stasis. So guys, that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed, found this interesting. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickKackis. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.